Perhaps it should not bother me. However, it does. This this illusion and this myth that women like me or darker are incapable of feeling or being vulnerable is insane. My heart. Okay. I miss my cats. They were murdered. And this is due to ego and the perpetuators and the murderers of my cat, whom I miss and adore and I love, and I'm just, I'm, I'm really going through it right now. Okay. I really dislike this armor that I've allowed myself to put on. However, it's not even so much that it is an option, because it is an option. However, even if a woman like me or darker, even if we do not put on this armor, then not only do we not get validation, I mean, and I do clearly comprehend how we don't need validation from anyone. However, it it evidently still gets to me because I know that I deserve so much better, and a lot of you deserve so much better, and it's just a really, it's not only such a disgraceful role, it's a disgraceful interaction and socialization, and it really gets to me, and perhaps that's just something I need to work on. However, this idea that somehow I'm just gonna be like super tough and Teflon and like unoffendable, or like cold and what do you call, like very desensitized. Even though I would consider myself to some level to be pretty desensitized. However, I still feel and I still care, and it still bothers me sometimes that beautiful women, not even just beautiful women, but so many women and females and even males, not just females, but so many who are affected by this, but yet voicing that or expressing this, whether it's emotionally or just verbally, it's as if it's as if a population of, I suppose you could say, citizens or zombies. I don't know. It's as if they're not even. Well, this part doesn't offend me to say this. I'm pretty much detached, but it's I'm not sure whether it's acting or pretending, or whether they truly feel the way they do. But when injustice or harm is done to women like me or darker, and not to exclude Caucasian women, however, the truth of the matter is that the Americanized, socialized European female, whether you want to admit it or not, really, honestly, yeah, no. And it's not even an envy thing. It's not a jealousy thing. It's just a very, it's just it's the volume, the volume and the distinct lack of compassion or comprehension or just like the intellectual capacity of this as to how if a woman like me or darker is harmed or mistreated or degraded or murdered or whatever, this there's just no emotional interest, and if there is, it is indifference or a repressed statements or anything really. It's either indifferent or accepting of it, and quite frankly, detached or undetached, whether you're detached or not, or emotionally invested into it, the fact of the matter is that there are still women and males, perhaps, that still have such an ability to feel things and to be to express their feelings or to be offended, or not even just offended, but empathy, right? And it bothers me. I'm not a entirely self-centered, selfish woman. I am clearly aware of my what do you say? I'm clearly aware of the things that I can appreciate and the things that I do appreciate, and how I have things to be grateful for and people to be grateful for. However, this does not take away from the fact of the matter that it can become quite heavy if not able to cope or have an outlet or a space or safe space or place or someone to trust. And that for me has been one of my most I suppose you could say obstacles or struggles, and that bothers me because it should not be so. However, it is, and I do not accept this. I don't accept this normalized projection of this misrepresentation, not only misrepresentation, but stereotypical, not only stereotypical, but oppressive, and not only oppressive, but outstanding lack of compassion or feeling or emotion or energy, really. And yet, so many of us have so much to offer. And that's not to discredit anyone else of any other so-called shade or race, ethnicity, and heritage or background. What I'm saying is that it's an outstanding amount of evidence that I've personally experienced and witnessed, and too often hear about. And it's not only alarming, It's almost heartbreaking, and I find this to be repulsive, not on the behalf of us women who are shunned and quieted and just left to kind of lick our own wounds, which we do. We do find a way to make lemonade, even if there's no lemons present. My thing is this, is that evidently we're good enough to be slaves, we're good enough to be whores, we're good enough to be prostitutes, we're good enough to be consumers, and we're good enough to be looked at and be used as entertainment and as comedy, or as, pure entertainment and for other people's pleasure, or a doormat. And I just have to say this, is that shame on all of you who participate in this rhetoric and who participate in this theme of such just, it's embarrassing and it's inhumane. And furthermore, audacity for those of you who have the ability to have outrage and are able to find a voice and to communicate and express injustices when this is a member of your own. However, injustice is injustice, and pain is pain, and whenever a population of people silence or diminish women like me or darker, diminishing our voice or our pain or our struggle or our experience, shame on you, because when you're able to find the energy to advocate and to be outspoken about the injustices, whether this is alleged or alleged or something that maybe entirely happened. However, what I'm saying is that this broadcast and representation advertising, announcing an awareness of your existence is beyond unsettling, especially when so many cases, of which so many have unjustifiably, illegally been detained, murdered, arrested, and incarcerated, punished, consequenced, and defamed in all types of terrible repercussions due to false allegations. And as for those who actually were abused or harmed or mistreated, I would never go so far as to say that you're not entitled to stand up for yourself, advocate for yourself, and bring awareness to it. That part is absolutely, I'm definitely supportive of that. However, this importance and the investment into bringing justice to the perpetuators, whether allegedly or falsely, is rather interesting, because that same importancy or awareness when it comes to women like me or others, or males, this is not just exclusively for women of color. My point is this, is that it's not a matter of us wanting to embrace or play a pity party or be the bigger victim. It's not so much of that. It's just that clearly this lack of support, the lack of availability to these resources or, programs, the ethical and professional interaction with us is not at all parallel to you. And furthermore, this notion that, well, simply because well, your men were able to dominate and were able to implement your way and culture. Never mind this, is that it's extremely outstanding how we're still alive and not claiming this land as my own, because I mean, well, I'm part of nature. I don't own it, okay? But this thing where, well, it's too bad because this is my system type of mentality is very disheartening, and that's the part that's kind of detached. However, as a mixed and of versatile ethnic background, and furthermore being a woman of color, and this administered treatment of being a woman of color, even in my origin, native land of native origin. No, I'm not from Africa. No, I'm not from none of that. Okay, this I am in my own land, but this adherence, okay, for me, it's quite it's the ultimate confliction, because holding women, holding anyone, especially if they're natives of this land, of they're in their native lands and territory, being held to these legal principles, or being incarcerated, mistreated, or having the authorities be against you, or to be able to implement their regulations and so on and so forth, is very quite outstanding, and almost it's wow. It's just clearly wow. I don't have the word for it. It's appalling. Yeah, it's appalling and very saddening. Because why? Because I don't vote, and many of us do not vote. We did not vote for that or advocate for that. We did not agree or consent to that. However, we're still in our own land of origin, and yet being held to a code of which we did not come from, nor do we believe in, nor do we consent to. But yet, we can be penalized by that same code, right? But we are not rectified or justified by that very same code. So you can punish based off of your culture or your structure, but you cannot serve justice or bring justice to those who are mistreated in their own land of origin. And victimhood is only extended to certain people in this, now what is addressed as US of A. So, no, we may not need validation. However, when we are used so much and taken for granted, and as if we deserve that, because we don't, and as if we have not done, we have earned better than what we're given. We've earned that in our own land. Could you imagine? Could you imagine us doing that to you? No, you couldn't. I don't think you'll ever be able to understand until you go through it yourself.